Episode number 932. Hey, could you introduce me to so-and-so?
You're listening to the official BNI podcast with BNI founder and Chief Visionary Officer, Dr. Ivan Meisner. Stay tuned for networking and referral marketing tips from the man who's been called the father of modern networking, along with suggestions and insights into getting the most from your membership in the world's largest networking organization, BNI.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the official BNI podcast. I'm Priscilla Rice, and I'm coming to you from Live Oak Recording Studio in Berkeley, California, and I'm joined on the phone today by the founder and the Chief Visionary Officer of BNI, Dr. Ivan Meisner. Hello, Ivan. How are you, and where are you?
Hey, I am in Austin again this week, but you know what I love about Zoom and technology is that in just a little while, I'll be doing a live presentation in Canada.
Oh, right.
So, it's great. It's great to be able to Zoom around the world.
Yeah, that is really neat. So tell me a little bit about this podcast.
Yeah. So, it started with me. The original title was, about making connections when somebody wants you to make a connection to so-and-so. And before we got started, that's the way it comes across is, hey, can you introduce me to so-and-so? And so I think it's a fun title for this. I have a process when somebody asks me to introduce them to someone. First is clarity. And this goes way back to when I was a BNI member and, people wanted introductions and still applies today. But clarity first. I ask exactly what they're looking for and why. A really vague, I'd like to meet, someone in your network is a red flag to me. I want a clear, specific reason, which I would consider a green flag if it's a good enough reason. You want to make sure that it's a fit check. I want to make sure it's a fit check. I assess whether the person they want to meet is likely to benefit from the connection too. If it's just a one-way thing, I want to sell my product to so-and-so, then no. Referrals should be a win-win, not a one-way street. Next is a reputation risk review in my mind. I want to think about my past interactions with this individual. Have they demonstrated competence? Have they demonstrated follow-through and professionalism? If I wouldn't hire them myself, I'm not going to refer them to someone. So that's an important one. Other things to consider are, how do I decide who to refer and who not to refer? So there are certain boxes that in my mind have to be checked. First is trust. I have to have direct experience with their work or their character or a trusted contact that vouches for them. So there has to be trust. There has to be competence. They have to have a proven track record that they can deliver results at a professional level before I introduce them to so-and-so. There has to be alignment. Their values and approach have to align with the person that they want me to introduce them to. And there has to be a certain level of preparedness. They have to be ready for the opportunity, not just hoping to wing it. So here are some red flags for me when someone asks me to introduce them to someone. Have they had a history of reliability or unreliability? Good communication or poor communication? If they have a history of poor communication and are in any way unreliable, then that's going to be a no for me. Have they treated their network purely in a transactional way, or have they created a true relational network? Have they disrespected other people's time? Is there a disrespect for other people's time? That's an important one to me. And are they asking for introductions to people way outside their realistic reach without a compelling value proposition? And I get this all the time. I've done a lot of podcasts. I'm gonna sidetrack just slightly here. And I think I may have mentioned this in a previous podcast, but I get asked all the time because I've met Richard Branson many times. And so people will ask me, hey, I've got this great product. Would you introduce me to Richard Branson, please? And so what I often will say is a couple of things. First of all, I'll say, I'm sorry, what was your name again? That's what they start with. I'm sorry. It's like, who are you? And they'll say, oh, sorry. My name is so-and-so. And then what I generally say, particularly to BNI people, is I talk about the VCP process, visibility, credibility, profitability. And I say, hey, look, Richard and I are barely at credibility. I mean, he knows who I am. He thinks I'm fairly credible. but we're not at profitability. I've never really referred business to him. He hasn't referred business to me. And I'm not even at visibility with you. And so you're asking me, this is what I say to the person, you're asking me to introduce you to someone that I may barely be at credibility with, and I am not even at visibility. You and I are at invisibility with each other. And so it's not a good fit. And so that's an example of asking for introductions to people outside their realistic reach. So the cost of a bad referral, and this is, really important to me. The cost of a bad referral is, a bad introduction can cost you far more than a few awkward minutes. It can damage your credibility. The person you referred might start questioning your judgment. Why did he refer that person to me? It can hurt relationships. Trust takes years to build and seconds to lose. I'm going to repeat that one. Trust takes years to build, certainly months, many months to build, but it can be lost in seconds. And you absolutely can't talk your way out of something you behaved your way into. So, if you make a bad introduction, you talking your way out of it's just not going to work very well. It reduces future opportunities. People may hesitate to take your calls or trust your recommendations. So I think it's really important to protect your reputation, to only refer people that you've vetted, to make it, I'm giving you sort of a summary here, to make it a double opt-in, meaning I want to get permission from both parties before connecting them. So sometimes I'll have someone say to me, hey, so-and-so, do you think they'd be willing to be on my podcast or on my show? And I would say to them, well, let me check with them. And if they say yes, I'll make an introduction. So I get a double opt-in. I'll reach out to, rather than just make the introduction and then have the person say, why did you introduce me to this person? I'm not available, or, I'd like to know a little bit more before you just introduce me. I do the double opt-in. And so I get permission from the other party. And when I have that, then I make the introduction publicly, via email or by phone. And then I frame the introduction with context. Why is there a good fit? And, what is my personal level of experience with the person? So if I've worked with that person, I want to make sure and tell the individual that I'm connecting them with, that I've worked with them and have had a good experience. And so it's important, I think, to say no gracefully when you're going to say no. The VCP thing that I gave is a good one. Like, we're not even at visibility and you want me to refer somebody that I'm not even at profitability with. There are a number of different tactful approaches. One is the timing deflector. I'm not going to see this person for a long time, or they're out of town, they're traveling. They have to be legitimate reasons. But the timing deflector is a graceful way to say no. Not right now. Now, that's different than the timing deflector. Not right now is I'm not in a position to make that introduction. I want to make sure that I only connect people when I can wholeheartedly say that I know their work well. And so, I need to get to know you better. I need to get to know what you're doing better before I can make that kind of introduction. And then the credibility protector, I really value my relationships. So I only make referrals when I've worked closely with both parties. And if I've worked with both parties, then I'm happy to make the connection. There's the value add redirect. So that particular introduction, what you basically say is it isn't a right fit at the moment, but I can suggest some resources or other paths that you might explore. And I've used that myself when, asked to make an introduction, and I knew the person wouldn't be interested in that particular project. I knew they wouldn't. I knew them. And so I said, but that's not the right person for you. But I do know somebody else that might be interested in that project. And if you're okay with that, I'd be happy to introduce you to them. The key here is, if you're going to say no or not now, is to be honest, to be respectful, and preserve the relationships for the future. Both parties, if possible, especially if it's a BNI member, you want to preserve that relationship, but you don't want to ruin it. So you got to give the referral when the timing's right. Last thought, and then I'm done. Discernment is key. Connect, connect, connect. Do it often and do it with discernment. And what I've just given everyone here in this podcast is a way to apply discernment in a number of possible scenarios. And hopefully this is going to be helpful for BNI members all around the world. That's all I have for today, Priscilla.
Oh, yeah, that's very good. I really appreciate what you just taught. I think it's really helpful. Well, that's it for this week. Thank you so much for the great information. This podcast is sponsored by MeisnerAudioprograms.com. These audio programs will provide you with the tools and the inspiration to powerfully enhance your BNI experience. So check out the great material that's available to you at MeisnerAudioprograms.com and then use the promo code IVAN50 for 50% off of everything. All of the proceeds go to the BNI Foundation. Thank you so much for listening. This is Priscilla Rice, and we look forward to having you join us again next week for another exciting episode of the official BNI podcast.